Penguin Random House presents Dawood's Mentor, the man who made India's biggest dawn, by S. Hussain Zaidi, read by Mushfiq Khan. Acknowledgements. Everyone is my teacher. Some I seek, some I subconsciously attract. Often, I learn simply by observing others. Some may be completely unaware that I am learning from them, yet I bow deeply in gratitude. By Anonymous. A man's mettle, his character and the choices he makes in life all boil down to having a great mentor. The ones who make their mark in life always talk about the people who shape their minds, forge their thoughts and perspectives, and carve their personality. They talk of the people and books that left an indelible impression on their minds. A mentor is the architect of a man's character and the sculptor of his personality. A mentor could be your parent, spouse, sibling, teacher, friend, or even a colleague at work. The only prerequisite for the pupil is that he or she needs to have cognizance of the mentor's presence in his or her life, and that she or he needs to deeply respect the mentor and possess a deep hunger to follow and emulate the mentor. In the Mahabharata, Eklavya was denied tutelage by Dronacharya, but his burning desire to excel and follow the teacher made him a better archer than Arjun. The warrior in Arjun attained his peak of perfection only when his friend, who was also his charioteer, Krishna, decided to mentor him in Kurukshetra. Before Moses embarked on his mission to take on the might of the Pharaoh, it was Jethro who coached and trained him. Moses ended up marrying Jethro's daughter after serving him for years. Both Christianity and Islam emphasize on servitude and humility to the mentor. Jesus showed the way through humility and often led by example. Prophet Muhammad's most devout disciple was his cousin, Ali ibn Abi Talib, popularly known as Ali. The disciple was so humble before Muhammad that he would not even hesitate to cobble his master's shoes. Muhammad reciprocated with compassion and eventually had his daughter betrothed to Ali. The art of losing oneself while learning from the mentor makes one the best protege. And the best protege actually turns out to be the most effective mentor. Till date, Hazrat Ali's followers swear by his principles, integrity, valor, his exemplary character, his inner and outer strength, and his loyalty to his mentor. Dedicated learners and students pick up more wisdom from their mentors than from their own parents. Napoleon Hill met Andrew Carnegie a couple of times, but was deeply influenced by him. Hill went on to write the best-selling book, Think and Grow Rich, a Bible for millions of entrepreneurs. The book changed so many lives for the better. Its happy beneficiaries swear by its pull and influence in their lives till today. On the other hand, the mentor has so much tenacity and wisdom that he does not dwell on his protege's turnabout. If Ernest Hemingway was mentored by Sherwood Anderson, Hemingway did not reciprocate. Flushed with arrogance, Hemingway ridiculed Anderson in a satire after achieving fame. But Sherwood Anderson was unfazed and continued grooming talents. American writers like William Faulkner and F. Scott Fitzgerald emerged from the Anderson stable. Speaking of mentors, I would like to share my own personal story as an example for all my students. At 17, I was gauche and lacked in confidence. I was trying to complete my education even as I was trying to support my parents by working part-time. As my written and spoken English left a lot to be desired, I was very embarrassed. One day I was sitting forlorn in a library in suburban Mumbai, wondering how could I improve my writing skills. Suddenly, a youth, probably the same age as me, who was aware of my problems, walked up to me and after a brief dialogue, offered me a book. Not a penny more, not a penny less, by Jeffrey Archer. I first met Shabib Rizvi several years ago during lunch at a common friend's place and had not taken much of a liking to him. He was talking about various books and his command over English was superb. I misinterpreted his knowledge and his suaveness.
I thought that because he was the scion of a prominent family in Bandra,
he was flaunting his social status. Actually, I carried this resentment against him for quite some time. But that day in the library, we forged a bond that remains strong till date. I remember his first piece of advice. The best way to master a language is to read the masters of that language excessively. That was the beginning. I voraciously devoured thrillers and other assorted pulp fiction, essentially whatever I could lay my hands on. Frederick Fawcett, Ian Fleming, Robert Ludlum, Ken Follett, David Baldacci, David Morrell, John Grisham, Scott Turow, Steve Martini, Sidney Sheldon, Irwin Wallace, and their contemporary thriller writers. At one point of time, the bookstall owners at Fort and Kala Ghoda started recognizing me and sweetly keeping copies of various books for me. Needless to say, I began to absorb from these master storytellers.
I ended up reading hundreds of books, and I would like to say that those books did for me what no creative writing classes could do for an eager student.
When I became closer to Shabib sir, I discovered so many facets to him that I realized that my initial assessment of him stemmed from an inferiority complex. He was everything that I was not. The man was a polyglot and could speak over half a dozen languages with equal ease and felicity. He devoured books on various subjects like carnivore pouncing on its prey. He read everything that he could lay his hands on. He had an insatiable appetite for books. He read history, philosophy and logic, grammar, dictionaries and lexicons, anything that fancied him. Shabib sir is a man of many parts. A speaker, researcher, writer, translator, analyst, and the author of over 200 treatises, dissertations and research topics, not to mention that he is responsible for the translation of several iconic Arabic books in English. I was also intrigued by his way of living, which was Spartan to say the least. There was nothing ostentatious about him or his lifestyle, despite his family's wealth. I was also charmed by his magnanimity. I learned valor, integrity, humility, fearlessness and selflessness from him. I began to look up to him as my first mentor. He taught me to make a lot of money and spend it generously on family and friends, and after them, on have-nots like widows, orphans, and the poor. He believed there was no point in hoarding money like misers do, because one won't be able to take it to the grave. Shabib sir and I grew up together. His keen interest in academics led him to pursue a doctorate in a business subject. As for me, I veered off into export-import business before finding my feet in journalism. But I did not lose touch with Shabib sir. I was picking up a lot of things from him, even things he never taught me. I met him regularly, at least once every week, and imbibed some of those monk-like characteristics that keeps one solid from the inside. In my job as a crime reporter, I dealt with criminals and blood and murder. To see all that and still remain unaffected takes a lot of effort. I learned not to be afraid of the mafia or the diktats,
not to get intimidated either by power, the government, or reckless police officers.
It was my years of association with Dr. Shabib Rizvi that made me the man I eventually became, both in my mind and spirit. If God had not sent a Shabib Rizvi into my life, I would have been just another young man spending decades in the pursuit of elusive success. 10 years after meeting Dr. Shabib, the superb Rizvi, I met my second mentor in life, Vikram the Great Chandra. Vikram was already a globally acclaimed author of several best-selling books, but it was his extreme humility that touched a chord with me. Vikram had met dozens of journalists, but he decided to befriend me. We had met when he was researching his acclaimed book, Sacred Games, now a popular series on Netflix. We both went to various shady places and survived so many risky adventures. Vikram was good at decrypting men of all hues. He took very scant notes, but clicked pictures of the surroundings with his mental camera. Often his face was ashen due to his intense effort at absorbing the minutest of details. For instance, at the den of Karim Lala or at Dagdi Chaul or outside Pakmudi.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?